The new channel. The new channel.
The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following show are those of the hosts, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the new channel. Here to help you see the new you. Today, two speakers, 20 minutes, thought-provoking messages. This is The Talk. I am Dennis Calamba, the Mr. Delightful of Learning, host of The Talk. We are glad you could join us for another episode of The Talk, where we feature local and international speakers with messages that educate, motivate, and inspire a call to action. We provide two power pack learning sessions through our speakers who invest precious minutes of their time sharing their expertise and experience for you, our dear viewers. For this episode, we have coaches on board. Not the sports coach kind, but coach on the business side. They are both rated E, as in executive coaches. Truly, they are top notch in their respective field. Both coaches will talk about a topic that demonstrates their expertise, and they will also share how coaching can bring about massive growth in business and even in one's life. That is, of course, paired with the right platform, method, or technique that allow them to really coach well, whether it's individuals or on a team setting or even on the business or organizational side. So, what's special about our guests today is that they are coaches first and foremost, but they are equally effective as speakers and trainers. They are both homegrown, meaning they will be joining us live in their respective locations here in the Philippines. One will be live streaming at Parañaque and the other one will be live streaming at Ortigas. So there you have it. Home court advantage for today's episode. So, Talksters, grab your traditional or digital note-taking tools. Put your favorite drink and dish beside you because we are opening the virtual stage right now. Before I introduce the first speaker, of course, just a recap of what happened last week. If you remember, we had Mondo Castro, an internationally certified trainer and coach, and he paired up with Jenny Kitching, the hypno woman from Birmingham, United Kingdom, and they talked about emotional intelligence. And of course, the other one is hypnotherapy, how to talk to yourself better. So if you remember the mascot singing, feeling hot, 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 yeah, probably the jalapeno mascot. So they were our speakers last week. And of course, this episode, we will be introducing our tandem power speakers, starting off with the first speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, his background is really one of a kind. It's loaded. Just take a look At his professional background, he is the founder and president of the Retail Academy Philippines, or RAP. And RAP is primarily a training and development center for Filipino service frontliners, especially those who are connected or who have a passion for franchising. He is there as the HR and strategic planning consultant, and he also does HR business process outsourcing. He is a senior consultant for family and business strategic coaching. It's an affiliate of Wong and Bernstein Strategic Advisory Group. And take a look at this. He held these positions, for big brands. He was once former product management specialist, advertising manager, account supervisor, operations and training head, general manager, and director for human resources. And these are spread out among big brands. Just to mention a few, distributor of Adidas, Nike, of course, if you're familiar with Mondragon, Firestone, LG Appliances, Maldita. So, he's really all over the corporate space. He is affiliated with certain organizations and, professionally affiliated with AFFI, the Association of Filipino Franchise Incorporated. He served as chairman of the board, also executive vice president of the PMA, Philippine Marketing Association, vice president of International Coach Federation Philippines chapter, that was in 2017-2018, member of the Philippine Retailers Association, an ASEAN Mentor for Entrepreneurs Network, or AMEN. Okay, and this was under the ASEAN Business Advisory Council. He's really a coach and mentor of the best kind. And of course, he's a graduate of the Ateneo de Manila University, and he also has his business background at the Asian Institute of Management. Wow, that is really one loaded introduction. But today on the talk, we will discuss a topic entitled the growth mindset during the pandemic. So, are you excited to learn from him? I share the same excitement with all of you talksters. So, without further ado, let's welcome to the virtual stage Coach Enrique Pablo Eric Caeg.
Hi, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the viewers of our show today, The Talk. And I'd like to thank Dennis for inviting me over the show. Now, what I'd like to share with you is a framework from Dr. Carol S. Dweck, which is the growth mindset. Uh, just for introduction, Dr. Dweck is a psychologist teaching at the Stanford University, and she has pioneered what we call growth mindset. And now she has a framework for us to be able to guide us how we should be or we should be during the time of pandemic. We know that we've been on this quarantine period for the last 5 months, and I've I've talked to a lot of people over so many webinars, and we've asked certain questions related towards how they were feeling uh, when the pandemic came or during the quarantine came announcement that March 16. No? First, allow me to show you the framework of Dr. Carol Dweck. So here you see four circles, and the nucleus of which asked all of us, who do I want to be during this COVID-19 pandemic? Now, I'm sure nobody was actually prepared for this. It hit us surprisingly, and two things that was able to, two things were limited: freedom, okay, freedom of going out, freedom of seeing your friends, your family. Okay. Next, our health was actually threatened. So for some of us, you may have known some close friends, close relatives, acquaintances who unfortunately was infected by the virus. And during the first couple of weeks, these were the things that people were actually experiencing. And Dr. Dweck recognizes the first zone as the fear zone. So allow me to read some of her points. So people grab food, toilet papers, and medications that they actually never needed. But since there's that scare, that fear, if you remember the first couple of days, people were hoarding, buying a lot of things from the supermarket, the groceries. You're seeing long lines. If you remember, the announcement was a bit advanced. I think March 14 or 13, and the implementation was March 16. So that window of 2 days allowed people to prepare, but some of them actually overreacted. And this is what Dr. Dweck was saying. People were actually buying more than what they needed because they were fearing that they were not going to be able to replenish. Okay. Next is my emotions related to fear and anger. I get to tell it to everyone. Okay. So these two reactions triggered these two emotions trigger the reactions downstairs. So if you see the line below, the upper part of the circle are the emotions, and the lower part are actually the reactions that came about that emotions. So people tend to complain frequently because they were not used to staying home, and this is something that scared them because it was said that it's going to stay for at least 1 to 2 months. Because if you remember, uh, ECQ, then modified ECQ happened. Okay, then people were receiving a lot of information. So there's a little barrier between what's true and what's not true. So we've been reading a lot of articles from the internet, from social media, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Messenger or Viber. You've been bombarded with so many messages towards this pandemic. Okay, then you tend to consume all of those. Therefore, during that fear zone, people tend to get agitated easily. Okay? The next zone that Dr. Dweck wrote is that after going towards the fear zone, people should be going towards the learning zone. So here in this zone, people started to give up what they cannot control. Because there are two things that in reality, something that you can control and influence, and the other one is something that you're just concerned about. Of course, everyone's concerned about health of your loved ones, health of your employees, everyone else, health of the country, health of the world. But then again, if you try to bring it down to the immediate circle that you are in, which is your family, and probably your employees first, then people started to uh, appreciate on how to communicate and get in touch with everyone. Next is people stop compulsively consuming what hurts them. Okay, so in the earlier zone, people were buying and spending a lot more for what they don't need, and people were listening for what was not relevant to them. Okay, so people started to filter what they were supposed to consume and what they were supposed to embrace, and they were able to identify their emotions. Then how did it affect the reactions? Then they became more aware of the situation, and thus becoming aware, they now know how to act. Okay? They were able to evaluate information that were going around. What I will pass, what I will don't pass, what I will not pass. So people are starting to ask the sources of information. Because during the fear zone, everybody was bombarded and they never really validated things. Okay. Then they started to recognize that we are all trying to do our best to understand what's going on. So from fear zone to learning zone, we're now going to the growth zone, okay, where everyone was starting to think of how to help one another, okay, how to make their talents available to them. So this is where people started to think about our frontliners and backliners. Frontliners are the ones in the hospitals, no, our healthcare workers. Also the ones in the streets, like you saw a lot of checkpoints where we had our police, our soldiers, our firemen manning the checkpoints, making sure that people are safe for those who are allowed to travel during that period of time. Okay? And in the growth zone, people are able to see that, yes, this is my present. I need to deal with this so that I'll be able to uh, move. And you probably heard a lot of this the last 5 months. Yung sabing bounce back For us, we want to say we need to bounce forward. We need to look at how we're going to be in the future, springing from these changes that we have experienced over the last 5 months, and still we're going to experience for the next couple of months. Thus, people are now more empathetic, forgiving to oneself and with others. And this brings about being appreciative. Okay, a lot have started realizing that staying at home allowed them to connect, reconnect, okay, reconnect with their families, with their children. Okay, a lot of platforms were able to be of help. The digital platforms that we are using allowed us to connect to our friends, our relatives, even those we haven't seen for quite a long time. Okay, and we'd like to see that aside from what we're experiencing, there's still happy snapshots of what our life is experiencing today. Okay? And you look forward to be adaptive and practice certain things that you would like to do, some things that you haven't done before. Now, having said, having explained to you the framework of Dr. Dweck, I've actually interviewed some and asked them for the last so many times that we did some webinars and entrepreneurs and franchisors being guests in our show. These are the things that were actually common to most of our guests. So when they said during the fear zone, so when I asked how were you when this period started, so some of them answered, actually I panicked, I was anxious, I hoarded some food and basic supplies, so pretty much similar to the framework. I was emotional. I was worried about my family. I was worried about my employees, and most of all, I was worried about my finances. I belong to the category of the SMEs or MSMEs, micro and small enterprises, of which 99.5% are existing in the country, and out of that 99%, 60% or 70% are in the micro, of which most of them are actually affected in terms of business for the first 3 months of these 5 months that everybody was closed. So for most of our franchisors and the franchisees who are based in the malls, they were actually closed, and now they're trying to recover. Now they're trying to see certain new ways on how to survive the business. Moving towards the learning zone, the guest said, I began to calm down. I communicated with my team at work, and I began learning new things. This third point, we got many interesting stories. People started to learn how to cook. People started to learn how to do gardening. People started reading books that was in their, in their shelves that they haven't really touched for a long time. So, in effect, there are still some good things that they have learned out of this period that we are on lockdown. On the growth zone, our guest said, I was able to assist others already. I was able to adapt to the new situation, not yet the normal. Okay. And it's business continuity. You probably heard a lot of times these words, business continuity plan, pivoting your business. And during this last 2 months of July and August, okay, and probably half of June, people started to re-strategize because we already understand that the numbers that we planned for 2020 is already down the drain. And as we speak today, companies are actually re-strategizing because, as you know, we are in Metro Manila is in MECQ, and today we're supposed to hear what's going to happen for tomorrow or after tomorrow on the 19th, if MECQ will still be extended or we're going to revert back to GECQ. So why is that relevant to most of us? Because number one, it will now inform us who will be opening, who will be reopening, who will stay closed. Okay, and the uh, ecosystem of business is definitely changing because of all of this that's happening to us. No? While people are becoming aware and resilient, that people are saying we need to coexist with this pandemic, with this virus, up until the vaccine and the cure is here, and to be able to stabilize and protect everyone. People are continuously, daily, uh, trying to curb something that will be relevant for their families, for their businesses, and not discounting the anxiety that's like a roller coaster. Because if you remember, when June 1 came, when GCQ came, people really went out. And I myself was a witness to all of these when a few of us were going out with rapid passes to the checkpoints up until there are more people, then eventually everyone is out. And the result is that we are having the high numbers. And this is causing a struggle between how do you hold the balance between supporting business and protecting health. But in the middle of this, what's important for everyone, either you're for business or you're for your health, is that mindset wise, we're stable, we're resilient, we're adaptive, and most of all, we don't forget that we have our God above who is guiding us all through all of the struggles that we have. So, as a coach, we always ask, who do you want to be? That's a very difficult question to answer today during this time of pandemic. But surely the framework of Dr. Dweck is something that we can look at, something that we can consider to guide us moving towards looking at the solution of this COVID-19 pandemic. So I've shared with you some tidbits that we've gathered from some of our guests, and I hope you wouldn't stop asking yourself that question: who would you want to be out of this pandemic? So there, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this moment that you've allowed me to share with you some of our insights and some of the sharings from the framework of Dr. Carol Dweck. Thank you very much and have a great day ahead.
Thank you very much. Again, that is Coach Eric Caeg. Now, just a quick personal story about that very fine gentleman. You wouldn't have noticed or you wouldn't have known because his presentation was just really very fluid, very smooth, and of course very relevant. But as it is, Coach Eric is actually feeling under the weather, and I'm just in so much admiration, and I'm really thankful for Coach Eric because despite how he has been feeling the past few days, probably because ever since the pandemic or the quarantine started, well, I've been observing his activities virtually, and as far as I know, he's really been doing the rounds, doing all of these free webinars and learning sessions with some training companies and training organizations, and also community groups who are also focused on information and just really trying to let people learn more about the effects of this pandemic. He's really been around with so many people for the longest time, as far as I can remember. But today, despite his struggle with his health, because probably too tired of all the contributions that he has been giving since day one. But really, my hat is off to Coach Eric because that was really something that can provide value to all of us, especially now that we are still under the quarantine. So thank you very much for giving us that right amount of perspective, Coach Eric. And we do hope that you are able to rest and recover well. And we will invite you again for another round of 20-minute power talk here on the talk. So let's allow Coach Eric to enjoy the rest of the day. But for us who are now here joining us on the live stream, for those of you who are watching, let's pause for a quick break first. Please don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the talk with me, Dennis Calamba. Of course, shout out to all the live viewers out there, those who are watching us live and who are joining us during this live stream. Of course, please hit me with a like or follow on Facebook at Dennis Calamba, the Mr. Delightful of Learning, and join our learning community at Learning Events and Resources PH. And you know what, guys? Today is really something very different. I think I smell better, not because of anything else, but really because probably it's all about something I use on my shirt. But then again, I just remembered I want to thank Well Life Philippines. Yes, Well Life Philippines. Thank you very much for helping me bring this suit to life because we're talking about Well Life. This really actually smells good. I don't know what. Probably it's the detergent in the Fabco. But again, thank you, Well Life. Yes, thank you very much. And of course, speaking of sponsors, of course, there are lots of other shows here under the TNC roster. And I'd like to take a quick view of all of these shows that you might probably interested to watch and support as well. So here we go. Let's do a rundown of all the shows that are currently under the TNC roster. The Big Picture with Lloyd Luna shares inspiring stories of notable personalities, live streaming Monday to Friday at 7 p.m. HR Hotline with Jesse Rebustillo introduces us to the wonderful world of human resources management every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 1 p.m. iBusiness with Dr. Mike and Bert talks about inspiring business insights and how you can own a business. Live streaming from Tennessee and Texas in the USA, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time and Wednesdays and Fridays at 9:30 a.m. Philippine Time. The Fourth Project by Bob Kilapio is about life, business, and success stories live streaming from Dubai, UAE at 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. Philippine time. U-Turn with Carmine Ortega is all about discovering your life purpose and learning from others' turnaround stories. Streaming Mondays and Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. The Home Buyer with Dante Salamat is where you hear remarkable stories about building and owning a property. Streams Mondays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. Laugh and learn through the puppet stories with Juan Lu, Tuesdays and Fridays at 5 p.m. Magbenta, bumili at tumulong dahil bukas na ang TNC Marketplace kasama si Ms. Nels and Ms. Ange. Yan ang mga promotor ng Mine at saka ng Push. It's an online night bazaar live streaming every Thursdays and Fridays at 10 p.m. After Shift with Chino and Trisha is a show about choices and life after the work shift, airing Wednesdays and Fridays at 8:30 p.m. Usapang Beauty with Joby Linsangan Moreno is about beauty beyond what your eyes can see. It's every Thursday and Saturday at 5:30 p.m. TNC's newest show on the block, YOLO, is premiering tonight at 8:30 p.m. YOLO shows us that law can be fun and cool. Live streaming every Monday and Thursday at 8:30 p.m. hosted by Attorney Carlo Ibanez and Attorney Sheila San Diego. Of course, my most favorite show features two speakers, 20 minutes, and thought-provoking messages that talk streams live every Monday at 12 noon. We also have TNC original shows such as One Day, a 30-minute show which profiles unique and inspiring stories of real people. It alternates with TNC Town Hall, which is co-hosted by TNC founders Lloyd Luna and Apple Manansala. This platform is where we talk to you, our valued audience, on feedback about our shows on TNC. Other TNC shows occasionally stream, such as TNC PressCon, TNC Arena, and TN Cinema. Some upcoming shows include Win Within, Danny Art Show, The Family Business, Money and More, Rainbow Time, Learn Together, The Franchise, At Your Service, and The Frontliner, and many, many more. So please, ladies and gentlemen, those who are watching live and those who will be watching the replay, one thing I've learned from one of the hosts, type live if you're watching live or type replay when you're watching the replay. But please do follow our page, TNC Now, over Facebook and YouTube. So that's where you can see all of the things that are happening with all of the shows under the new channel where we help you see the new you. So, and with that, I think it's about time to introduce our second speaker. Are you ready for the second 20-minute power talk? I have a short but sweet introduction for our next speaker. He is a TRAIL executive coach and an XO certified consultant, XO, with an MBA in strategy and finance from Cornell Johnson Graduate School. He was chief finance officer in one of the Philippines' top conglomerates and, hear this out, once served as an undersecretary at the Department of Finance. With these achievements under his belt, this industrial engineering alumnus from the University of the Philippines is also a volunteer life coach. Yes, he is a coach inside and out. And today, he will deliver a talk entitled Exponential Organizations. So, talksters, let us welcome on the talk Coach Jose Emmanuel Jimbo Reverente.
Good morning. Very pleased to be here with all of you watching on TNC. Dennis, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate the opportunity to share what we know at Trail about exponential organizations. First, an introduction to myself. I'm from Quezon City, and I am a amateur mechanic. I work on old BMWs. Went to Ateneo for high school, UP for my undergraduate in industrial engineering, and I did take my MBA at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. I've been in many organizations in the Philippines and abroad. My real advocacy is coaching, either executive coaching or life coaching. Um, and one of the things that I coach on is this thing called exponential organizations. We know that technology is changing the world every day. And here's an intro about the fourth industrial revolution. Thank you for that. That was Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum. And most organizations are feeling this way now. They're feeling like they are mammoths, and disruption is happening all over from technology. And what can organizations do currently in order to survive in this disruptive phase in the world of the fourth industrial revolution? So many technological advancements that happened in the last 100 years. 2400 BC saw the abacus, and then very shortly, just before our time now, so many new technologies have happened, and it's only recently, really, if you take a look at the length of time that humans have been around in the world. Here's a picture of in Fifth Avenue, New York City, on the left side, and you'll see in a round circle just one automobile in a stream of horse-drawn buggies. This is 1900. 13 years later, a picture of the same street in New York City, and you're lucky if you'll find one horse-drawn carriage. It's all just cars. And this is just after 13 years after the introduction of the car, after thousands and thousands of years of the horse being used as a main mode of transportation. In 13 years, they were completely displaced by vehicles. The issue that New York City had was really that the streets are full of horse manure, and they were really wondering what could we do next in order to make sure that we don't have that health hazard. Imagine this. Imagine your city being full of horse manure. But then after that, they were completely replaced. The horse and carriage were completely replaced by cars just after 15 years or 13 years. And then in that red circle, that's where you find just one horse-drawn carriage. Now see the difference after 13 years of the introduction of the car. Why um, why are technological changes very hard to predict? For a long time, we're really more used to linear progression versus exponential progression. And while the technology may have been invented some time ago, the price performance is really not as good as the current, as what it seeks to replace. Do you realize that the digital camera was invented way back in the 70s? But it can only take one pixel at a time. Can you imagine? So for a long time, it really was not something useful. Cameras and film were still better. But after a while, after the price performance increased, doubled every 18 to 24 months, it came a point where digital cameras completely replaced the use of film. It's very hard to predict because we're not used to thinking in terms of um, uh, exponential progression. If you think about linear progression, for example, if you take one step and one step will take you 1 meter away from where you are now, it's very easy to think that, okay, in 30 steps, I will be 30 meters away. No? So, napakadali. Uh, one step, 1 meter, 30 step, 30 meters. But what if you do the same with exponential growth? What if every step you take increases by double? So your first step is 1 meter, your second step is 2 meters, and then 4, 8, 16, 64, and 124. 128, I'm sorry. So if you take that doubling for 30 times, do you know that it will take you to 1 billion meters? And that is about 28 times around the Earth. So it's very hard to think about the implications of technologies when the growth is exponential. What happens in business? There are 4 Ds. Let me go through this. So the first one is digitize. When technologies are able to go digital, so many new things can happen. Look at the car here. This is a Tesla car. Arguably, it is not a car with a computer. Arguably, it's a computer with 4 wheels. Well, five if you include the steering wheel. And if you think about biotech, right? All of these are, if you think about information in your body being digitized, it's about the same thing. And now there are ways to imagine how you can have microchips being implanted in your brain. So the coding in digital information is similar to the way your information in your DNA is coded as well. So here's imagine this time when there's AI in your home. Not so far fetched, right? So after information has been digitized, it disrupts. So that's the second D. What we mean by disrupt, uh, it changes everything around us. But we are not ready for disruption. Why? For thousands of years, our life has been local and linear, and only upon the introduction of technologies did we realize that hey, we live in a sphere floating around the universe, and we were first for the first time able to see the world as everyone else in the universe sees our world. No, that's the only time we can see the Earth is really a floating rock in space. And the last upgrade our brain has had has been 50,000 years ago. The ancient architecture in our brains cannot handle torrents of data. We have hardwired biases. And can you imagine? We used to only needed to know how to get from here, where you live. No, for example, your cave to the river. Now there are so many navigation requirements. You have to know how to use Waze. You have to know how to use all these digital maps. And how can we process all this new information with our brains that have been the same for the last 50,000 years? And we know that anything that is new that is introduced to us depends on when it was introduced to us. Anything that you were, when you were born, anything that you grew up with is just normal, right? But when you are introduced to something between the age of 15 and 35, it's new and exciting. But after that, when something new is introduced, you feel that this is not the way things should be, and it's against the natural order of things. I remember the first time I used a computer. Cassette tape was the medium of saving storage, right? And then if you look at your icons in your laptop and the save icon, there's usually an icon of a diskette. When was the last time you saw a diskette? Some people are asking now, what does that even represent? Here is a car owned by Google. On top of the car, you'll see all this technological equipment, and it used to cost millions of dollars to install this. And what does that allow the car to do? It allows it to drive by itself. Okay, here's a video of what happens when reality hits you, when the reality of a self-driving car hits you. What you've listened to is the primal scream of when technology hits you in the face. The first time you get inside a self-driving vehicle, will it be able to drive better than me? Will it be able to have the same impulse control or the same control of the car? Do you remember Kodak? What happened to Kodak? Kodak actually invented the digital camera, but now they've been forced into bankruptcy for the film business. Instagram was acquired by Facebook when it only had 13 employees for $1 billion. Can you imagine that change in fortunes? When when information moves from from analog to digital, you are creating abundance, right? So how can 13 employees have a company worth $1 billion and it's now used by millions of people around the world? What happens next after the disruption is demonetization. What do we mean by demonetization? The revenues that come from newspaper advertising, for example, have fallen off the cliff. And Google, the search engine for Google, has risen way beyond what advertising used to be able to deliver. The music industry, same thing. Started with 8-track, with LPE and extended play albums, into cassettes, and then CDs, and then now digital. That world is never returning. What that means is that that information eventually becomes democratized after it's demonetized because now it's available to everybody. Here's a picture of Jack Andraka. Jack was this 14-year-old boy when his friend died of pancreatic cancer. And what he did, he went on Google because of his sense of loss, and he found out that there's a way to test for cancer. And when he presented this to drug companies, they basically said, "You're just a 14-year-old. What do you know?" But he was able to find something new in terms of how to test for pancreatic cancer, and he received all sorts of awards. Here he is in a picture with former President Barack Obama. What will businesses look like in the fourth industrial revolution? You've probably heard of these technologies: drones, artificial intelligence, energy, and 3D printing. What will happen when all of these converge? When all of these converge, you can imagine how art will become now abundant. No? You can search for art on the internet. Energy will become almost free. Healthcare will be available to as many people as possible, and resources will be available as well to those who need it, because costs will go down. It will become available to so many people. These organizations are what we call exponential organizations. They access and manage abundance. You have Google, Waze, Netflix, Airbnb, Tesla, and GitHub, and even Duolingo. Netflix, for example, I'm sure you're very familiar with Netflix. These are what we call exponential organizations. And the formula for exponential organizations is that you have an MTP and you have scale and ideas. MTP stands for massive transformative purpose. Scale stands for staff on demand, communication and crowd, algorithms, leverage assets and engagement, and ideas stands for interfaces, dashboards, experimentation, autonomy, and social technologies. When you're able to digitize information and use an MTP, a massive transformative purpose, use scale attributes and ideas attributes, when you implement this, you can become an exponential organization. You're able to access abundance, and then you're able to scale up like those organizations I mentioned. A massive transformative purpose is something that is really big. Richard Branson said, if the dreams of your company don't scare you, they are too small. What are some examples of massive transformative purposes? For Google, it's organize the world's information. For TEDx, it's ideas worth spreading. They describe the world that they want to create and what they want to bring about, the transformation they want to bring about in the world. And we know that in this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when you go up to self-actualization, that is where you really find your purpose. Um, it's not a mission and it's not a vision. It's something more. It's something you were here, you were brought here for. And of course, now that the internet is around, we're learning that Wi-Fi is also important, and battery also. Uh, you can't. I'm sure that you always wonder, where's the next time I'm going to be able to charge my phone. Let me talk about one of the first attributes in scale. This is staff on demand. Rather than owning employees, exponential organizations leverage external people from simple to complex work, even mission critical processes. Right? So for example, if you remember Uber and now Grab in the Philippines, uh, Grab is probably now the largest taxi company in the Philippines and in the whole of Southeast Asia, just as Uber is the largest taxi company around the world. How many cars do they own? None. How many drivers do they employ? None. These are all staff on demand. It allows Uber and Grab to respond to changes in demand for their services, right? And because of the interface that they use, it allows users to access all the providers as well. So providers can get on this platform. If you talk about the second attribute called community and crowd, uh, these brands are so strong that some of the biggest fans actually tattoo this on their bodies. I'm sure you've heard of people with the Harley Davidson tattoo on themselves. They are so devoted to this cause. This is what happens when you build a strong brand and a strong community and crowd around it. A stands for algorithms. Google, Uber, Netflix, Airbnb, UPS, they all use algorithms. For example, for Netflix, these algorithms is what allows them to figure out what you would be most interested in watching next. If you've watched a certain show, like I just saw Old Guard, they figure out who else has watched Old Guard and what's the next thing that they've watched. And then they introduce you to those new shows. Now, for example, Netflix is introducing me to Power Project, a similarly action-packed film. Algorithms is what also allows Google to have a self-driving car. Um, they have introduced Google Assistant. Listen to this. That is simply amazing. Can you believe that um, that was AI talking to that lady, and that lady could not distinguish whether she was talking to a real person or not. The fourth, leverage assets. This is the fourth exponential attribute in scale, leverage assets. So similar to staff on demand, instead of owning these assets, for example, Grab and Uber and Airbnb don't own those assets that they use to deliver their service. Airbnb, they don't own any hotel rooms, but they're the largest hotel chain in the world. Uber, BlaBlaCar, and Lyft are similar to Grab, as you know. So there's a picture of a terrific place that you can stay via Airbnb. Do they own that? No. Are you able to access it? Yes, because the owners of this place is using the Airbnb platform. And then engagement. Engagement is how you interact with your community. There are digital reputation systems that you can put in place, and games and incentive prizes that allow for this kind of digital engagement. It turns your community and crowd into future users, right? So engagement. These are just some of the first attributes, scale, um, on the left side. Now, this allows you to access abundance. And then ideas attributes are what allows you to manage this abundance internally and scale up. Um, there are so many examples of exponential organizations that are utilizing all these attributes. Can't wait to be able to explain that to you more. Through OpenEXO, which is a global transformation community, we're about almost 6,000 members now, and I'm part of this global transformation community. OpenEXO, you can find out more on openexo.com and through the Rizal Academy for Innovation and Leadership, where our MTP is transforming leadership for an inclusive and sustainable world. You can look at us. You can look us up on the web on www.rizalacademy.com. It's been a pleasure to spend this time with you, and I look forward to hopefully interacting with you again in a future forum. Thank you so much for listening. Again, this is Jimbo Reverente from the Rizal Academy for Innovation and Leadership.
Thank you very much, Coach Jimbo. Wow, talking about exponential growth in organizations. For some, it might be a bit scary, but for most, probably it is exciting and something that we can really look forward to, especially now in this day and age where technology is really driving everything that we have when it comes to living our lives from our day to day to our yearly activities. So there you have it, friends. Of course, we will do a recap in the next few minutes, but hang in there. The talk will be right back after these reminders. And we're back. Dennis Calamba here, the Mr. Delightful of Learning, host of the talk, which is now powered and sponsored by Well Life. Yes, Well Life, moving towards a brighter future or tomorrow. Yes, thank you very much, Well Life. And of course, okay, there will be a presentation about the benefits and probably what Well Life is all about. That's tomorrow. We are going to have a speaker there, Tony Miranda, and she's going to talk about a very important topic. But then again, that's on another Facebook page. So please visit the Facebook page of Well Life, moving towards a brighter tomorrow. So thank you very much for being supporter of this show, The Talk. And of course, please do hit me with a like or follow at Dance Calamba, the Mr. Delightful of Learning, also on Facebook, and join our learning community at Learning Events and Resources PH. So before we land the plane, just a quick look at our live audience. Of course, thank you very much for those who have been watching this live from the beginning. Of course, there is an encouragement for Coach Jimbo from Maria Belinda Lopez Villavicencio. Mabuhay, Jimbo, and sharing on exponential organizations. Of course, there's also a question from Mr. Dane Serrano. Yes, exponential growth is exciting, but it's a choice that should excite us or scare us as it is growing too fast. So the question is, can we keep up? If yes, how? Okay, so of course, you're also commenting on the audio. We do apologize for that, but we will make amends, probably share the links. I will probably share it also, those videos that are really exciting stuff for me. So just check it out and you will know soon enough once we have shared all of those stuff. But more than that, the comments are just really heartwarming. Thank you for really supporting the talk. Also, our speakers for today, Coach Eric and Coach Jimbo. So as I land the plane, of course, I just want to connect the two topics together, growth mindset and exponential growth in organizations. Really, the question on the comment section is very critical. Do we embrace it? Do we accept it? How do we accept it? Of course, just connecting the two topics, we cannot accept any form of change or any speed, any quality, any form of change if we do not adopt a growth mindset. Yeah. So I think one of the primary steps in embracing any change, especially exponential change, is really having that growth mindset, really having that understanding that for us to really progress, okay, in life and really embrace the benefits of what technology and all the other stuff this world has to offer, we need to start from within. We need to appreciate that we can adapt to these changes, we can learn, and we can gain knowledge and act appropriately based on the changes that are happening in the world. And really, when we talk about exponential change, it's really just about forming the habits that we need from the mind all the way to the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. Habits can really help us move towards the change that we want to see in our world, especially now. Really, the technology is the one driving all of these changes. And of course, it leads me also to remember a book that I read recently. It's all about psycho-cybernetics. It's really about programming the mind. Because of course we do have our default ways of thinking. Of course, our the parts of our brain, there are some parts that are very strong in terms of the default settings. Like there's this part of the brain that just focuses on problems, but that part of the brain doesn't actually offer solutions. It only presents problems. So we really need to have a grasp of how our brain as a system functions so that we can, okay, in fact, embrace, okay, and appreciate the change that will be brought about by exponential growth. And really, when it comes to thinking, it's not just linear thinking anymore. Well, that is still encouraged. Of course, we can still do the point A to point B kind of thinking, which is linear, but we also need to adopt new ways of thinking. And one particular way of thinking that has been there for the longest time, which is complementary to exponential growth or exponential mindset, is really systems thinking. So it's really looking at things not just from a point A to point B, but it's really looking at how one point connects to the other points and how that creates a system where everything runs smoothly and seamlessly. So I really do believe that systems thinking paired with exponential mindset, of course, with growth mindset as the driver of everything that will allow us to really embrace these two things, will really give us a good chance of really, adapting and really catch up on all of these things that are happening. And hopefully, we can say with confidence that even in the Philippines, our proudly Pinoy made companies will also adapt and live by the principles of exponential growth in organizations. Again, having that growth mindset that goes with this kind of change or growth. So, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Again, let us give our best applause for Coach Eric and Coach Jimbo. If you're still there, come on, let's give it up. Let's give it up. Woo. Nice topics. I really like this show. This is really my most favorite show. Not just because I'm the host and because I smell good because of Well Life, but really it's because of the speakers that we invite and of course the audience that really support the topics and this show, the talk. So we do hope that you are able to get valuable insights from their Power Pack presentations. Again, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of the talk here on the new channel. Of course, later on we'll have the home buyer by Dante Salamat. They will be live streaming later on in the day. Okay, so there you have it. They are going to stream later on at 4 p.m. Again, that is the home buyer with Dante Salamat, and that is what's up later in the day. So as we go back to our show, The Talk, of course, here on the new channel, again, thank you for joining us, those who joined us live and also those who will be watching the replay. Again, The Talk is powered by Well Life. Yes, Well Life. So this has been your host, Dennis Calamba, the Mr. Delightful of Learning, leaving you with an encouragement to keep on learning and keep on growing. See you next Monday as we open the virtual stage yet again with two speakers, 20 minutes, thought-provoking messages. This is The Talk. May the good Lord bless and keep you. Goodbye, everyone.